I drove for over 2 hours to reach my lakeside home, the only place that still offered me peace since I lost my husband. But the moment I stepped onto the porch, my heart stopped completely. My daughter Helena was sitting in my favorite chair, the one my husband and I used to silently compete for, each pretending to yield to the other. Beside her stood my son-in-law André and his parents, Claudio and Regina, toasting wine glasses as if they owned the place. Helena looked me straight in the eyes and said, without a tremor in her voice, "You can't come here anymore, Mother. This house now belongs to them." I smiled, but inside I had already decided they would never forget that day. Before continuing, I ask that you subscribe to the channel and comment which country you're watching this story from. Your participation helps keep this space alive. My smile was slow, the kind of smile many mistake for surrender. I squeezed the handle of my weekend bag tightly until I felt the veins pulsing against the skin of my wrist. The golden afternoon light spread across the tranquil lake water, the same water before which my husband, Ricardo, and I used to sit, counting the waves until sunset. But that memory dissolved under the weight of the scene before me. Helena was reclining casually, crossing her legs as if rehearsing for a stage performance. André displayed the same air of superiority inherited from his parents. Regina, with a polite yet cold half-smile, seemed to evaluate the house like someone appraising a guaranteed inheritance. And Claudio gave me the kind of nod one gives to a gardener hired to prune the rose bushes. "Excuse me," I murmured, my voice calm, almost emotionless. That's how I always spoke when I needed to decide which part of myself to show, the conciliator or the one who dismantles everything around her. "You heard me, Mother," Helena responded without hesitation. "We're here for the weekend, and when I say we, I include André's parents. They're going to settle in. This house now belongs to them." I looked beyond her, into the living room. There was the crocheted blanket I had woven on winter nights, carelessly thrown over the arm of the sofa that Ricardo and I had chosen together. On the coffee table rested a glass without a wooden coaster, a small detail, but one that made me burn inside. I had sanded and varnished those pieces in my workshop the summer before my husband's illness. "Since when," I asked slowly, "does something that is mine pass to others without my knowledge?" Helena placed her wine glass on the table. "Since we decided it makes more sense this way. They need a place. You barely come here. It's selfish to leave this house empty." Empty. The word echoed in the air like an affront. I had spent the previous month restoring the porch, sanding wood until my hands ached. The month before that, I had replaced the screen door with my own hands. But to them, none of that mattered. This wasn't about necessity. It was about control. Claudio spoke for the first time, his voice greased with false cordiality. "We appreciate your generosity, Donna Maria. We promise to take good care of this place." I didn't respond to him. I kept my eyes fixed on Helena. "And you thought it was right to announce this while occupying my chair?" Her lips curved into an almost smile. "Better to be direct, Mother." There was a time when just one look from me would make her back down, rethink her tone. But now she remained firm. At some point between graduation and this moment, Helena had decided she was the one giving orders. I climbed the first step of the porch. No one moved to make space. "I drove over 2 hours to get here," I said, my voice still serene. "I want to enter." "Not today," André replied. "We have dinner plans. You would be in the way." "In the way?" I looked at each of them. Regina adjusted her shawl as if preparing to watch a theater performance. Helena cast a complicit glance at her husband. Claudio poured more wine as if nothing could disturb him. "All right," I finally responded, the words tasting metallic. "Enjoy your evening." I turned my back, descended the steps, and walked to the car. Voices continued echoing behind me, my daughter's laughter mixing with her mother-in-law's pedantic timbre. I closed the door, started the engine, and looked one last time at the porch. Helena had already turned away, ignoring my departure. The road leading away from Lake Vista ran between pine trees that exuded the smell of rain even on dry days. Ricardo loved that perfume. I remembered the two of us, windows open, the wind tousling my hair while we laughed at something silly on the radio. I gripped the steering wheel tightly. My own daughter had just told me I was no longer welcome in the only place that still felt like his. And the worst part wasn't the audacity. It was the naturalness with which she had said it. When I reached the highway, the sun had already hidden and the air was cooling. My cell phone vibrated on the passenger seat. I didn't answer. I wanted silence. I arrived home shortly after 9 at night. The porch was illuminated by the light I never turn off, a habit inherited from Ricardo. He used to say that a home should never receive someone in darkness. Inside, I dropped my bag in the hallway and stood there, keys still in hand. The silence that night wasn't peace. It was emptiness. I prepared coffee just to occupy my hands. I took the cup to the study and sat in the leather armchair molded by time. Beside me was the photograph of Ricardo smiling in front of the lake house, the sunset transforming his hair to copper. I asked myself what he would have done if he were with me on that porch. I knew the answer. He wouldn't have let Helena finish her sentence. The cell phone vibrated again. It was a message from Helena. Just so you know, we've decided the house will be theirs definitively. Don't come back. No explanation, no conversation, just one line crossing years of shared life. I took a sip of coffee and felt something different sprout beneath the humiliation. It wasn't fury. Not yet. It was something colder, more calculated. I had spent my life building things. I knew how to raise foundations, and I also knew how to tear them down without the structure realizing it was crumbling. I looked at Ricardo's photo and whispered, "Would you like me to handle this my way?" Outside, the silence was absolute. Inside me, however, a plan was already being sketched. I picked up a blank sheet of paper and wrote just one line. They will never forget this day. I woke up the next day still with the bitter taste of the previous night. I had slept little, tossing from side to side in bed, mentally repeating every word from Helena, every muffled laugh from the in-laws, every dismissive look from André. The silence of dawn brought me clarity. I knew I couldn't react with explosions of rage. My daughter expected that. They all expected that. What I needed was something none of them could predict: coldness. I made coffee and sat again before Ricardo's photograph. The sun had not yet risen, and the kitchen was illuminated only by the yellowish light of the lamp above the table. I picked up a pen and the same blank sheet where the night before I had written, "They will never forget this day." This time I drew 3 columns: what they want, what I have, what I can do. In the first column I wrote, "Take possession of the house. Distance me definitively, erase my name from Ricardo's legacy." In the second column I noted, "Property title in my name. Knowledge of every corner of that house. Friendships built over decades. Memories that no paper can steal." In the third, I left blank space. I didn't yet have the answer, but I knew it would come. While drinking coffee, the memory of an old neighbor surfaced. Tiago, Donna Celia's son. He had become a specialist in electronic security, one of those who install advanced monitoring systems, intelligent alarms, even motion sensors invisible to the naked eye. Maybe it's too early to talk to him, I thought, but I didn't dismiss it. The cell phone vibrated on the table. Another message from Helena. "I hope you understand, Mother. This is for everyone's good." I took a deep breath. For everyone's good. It was incredible how certain phrases sounded like justice, but carried only the shadow of manipulation. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened the kitchen cabinet and removed a wooden box I rarely touched. Inside were old letters from Ricardo, notes from important dates, faded photographs. At the bottom, a folder of documents, the deed to the house in my name. I ran my fingers over the paper like someone caressing a scar. They think they can erase me, I murmured. But I still know how to build, and I know how to demolish. 2 days later, I took the car and drove to the neighboring town. Tiago worked in a small electronics store, but his true specialty only revealed itself to those who knew how to ask. He received me with the same boyish smile I had known since childhood. "Donna Maria," he exclaimed, "it's been so long." "Long enough for the world to turn upside down, Tiago," I replied. "I need your help." We sat at the back of the store, among boxes of cables and circuit boards. I told him without beating around the bush what had happened. His eyes narrowed and he shook his head in disbelief. "They want to take the house?" he asked. "They don't want to, Tiago. They already have." He was silent for a few seconds before saying, "And you want?" I leaned forward. "I want them to feel that house will never be theirs. I want every step inside it to weigh like a mistake. Not with violence, not with screams, just with the force of what they can't control." Tiago smiled sideways. "You're thinking of transforming the house into a ghost." "Something like that," I confirmed. "Can you do it?" He scratched his chin, thoughtful. "I can, but it will take time, and it's not cheap." "I don't care about time or the price. What matters is that they learn to respect." We agreed to start the following weekend, when Helena and the in-laws wouldn't be there. I returned home with a mixture of relief and anxiety. For the first time since the humiliation on the porch, I felt I had a hidden card up my sleeve. That night, I dreamed of Ricardo. In the dream, he was sitting in the porch armchair, looking at the lake, and he told me, "You were always stronger than you imagined. Use that." I woke with tears in my eyes and the certainty that I was on the right path. When Saturday arrived, I met Tiago at the lake entrance. He brought boxes, tools, and a gleam of enthusiasm in his eyes. "Let's start with the basics," he said. "Invisible motion sensors, hidden speakers, programmed lights, everything controlled remotely." We spent hours inside the house. Tiago installed devices behind paintings, inside shelves, even under the floorboards. We created a system that would react not just to presence but to behavior. If someone walked alone at night, they would hear footsteps behind them. If they tried to open the basement door, a soft voice would echo. If they remained silent for too long, the house itself would sigh. While he worked, I cleaned every corner, reigniting memories. I touched the curtains I had sewn with Ricardo, arranged the books on the shelf, aligned the picture frames. Every detail was a way of reaffirming this house was still mine. At the end of the day, Tiago handed me a remote control and an app installed on my cell phone. "Everything's ready, Donna Maria. When you want to start, just activate it." I looked around. The house looked like any other, but now it carried secrets that only I knew. "They won't forget," I murmured. "They couldn't, even if they wanted to," Tiago replied. The following week, Helena and Andre returned to the lake with the in-laws. I stayed home, watching through the app. The first hours were normal, laughter, music, glasses clinking. But when night fell, I gave the first command. At 10 o'clock at night, while everyone was in the living room, the lights went out for 3 seconds. When they came back, a soft sound echoed, footsteps upstairs. Regina looked at the ceiling, confused. Claudio laughed nervously. "It must be the house settling," he said. Minutes later, while Helena went to the kitchen, I made a voice whisper through the hallway. You don't belong here." She froze. I watched through the video and saw how her hands trembled. Andre ran to her but feigned strength. It must be the wind. I, in front of the screen, smiled for the first time in weeks. It was just the beginning. The morning after the first test, I woke up lighter. For the first time in a long time, the air seemed to breathe with me. I prepared fresh coffee and watched, through the app, the videos recorded the previous night. There they were, Helena trying to disguise fear, Regina looking at every corner of the room, Claudio smiling nervously, and Andre forcing courage. I knew every expression, every micro gesture. The mask of confidence they wore was already unraveling. "You chose the wrong house to invade," I murmured alone in the kitchen. That Sunday afternoon, while everyone gathered in the backyard for a barbecue, I programmed the system to release a low sound, almost imperceptible, as if someone were breathing close to their necks. The cameras captured Helena turning abruptly, her eyes scanning the air. "Did you feel that?" she asked her husband. "What?" Andre retorted, feigning calm. "Like, someone was behind me." Regina laughed, but couldn't hide the shiver. "Helena, my dear, that's imagination. Old houses always make noises." But I knew. It wasn't just noise. It was the house breathing, alive, like an organism rejecting a foreign body. The following week, Helena appeared at my door. "Mother, we need to talk." I opened the door without enthusiasm. She entered without asking permission, as if she still had that right. "What's happening in the house?" she demanded. I feigned surprise. "What do you mean?" "Don't give me that. Flickering lights, sounds. Someone is trying to scare us." I crossed my arms. "And why would I do something like that, Helena? The house is no longer mine, remember? That's what you told me." She looked away. "I just want to understand." "Maybe the house is just reacting to what you did," I replied dryly. "It was built with love, and now it's being treated like a prize. Places feel, Helena. Don't be mistaken." Her eyes filled with fury. "You won't expel us with tricks, Mother." I smiled slightly. "Then don't be frightened when the tricks become reality." She left, slamming the door. I knew she would return. The following days were calculated. On Tuesday, while they were having dinner, I made a muffled laugh sound coming from the basement. Everyone stopped eating. Claudio went to check but found only darkness. On Thursday, I let the living room piano play by itself. 3 low notes, spaced out like heartbeats. On Saturday, I programmed a shadow projected in the hallway, tall and motionless, as if someone were standing watching. Regina screamed so loud the neighbors heard. Each reaction was recorded by the cameras, every scream, every look of terror. I fed on that, not because I felt pleasure in their fear, but because each expression returned something they had tried to take from me, power. On a rainy afternoon, Helena called. "Mother, I want to understand why you're doing this." "Me?" I asked calmly. "I don't even go there anymore." "Do you think I don't know? It can only be you." "Helena," I sighed, "you don't need to blame me for the ghosts you awakened yourselves." On the other end of the line, silence. Then a phrase escaped. Andre said it was the only way to secure the future. Suddenly, everything made sense. It wasn't just her will. Andre had conducted every step, convinced Helena that I no longer needed the house. And the in-laws? Just accomplices, thirsty for a property that never belonged to them. When I hung up, I faced Ricardo's photograph again. They want to erase what we built, but they won't succeed. That weekend, I decided to increase the intensity. I programmed the lights to turn on and off in sequence, guiding them through the hallway as if led by invisible hands. I installed a recording of Ricardo's voice, taken from old videos, repeating short phrases. "Don't touch that. Get out of here. This house is hers." In the early hours of Sunday morning, Helena woke up screaming. The camera showed her looking at the bedroom mirror, swearing she had seen a figure behind her. Andre tried to manage. "It's stress, Helena. You're tired." But I knew doubt was already corroding her mind. On Monday morning, while having coffee, I received an unexpected call. It was Regina. "Donna Maria," her voice trembled. "We're considering selling the house." My heart raced, but I kept my tone neutral. "But isn't the house mine? How would you sell something you don't own?" Silence on the other end. Then the confession. Perhaps we rushed into this. Perhaps Helena was mistaken. I smiled to myself. The siege was working. "Don't worry," I replied firmly. "Soon everything will become clear." I hung up and breathed deeply. The house was winning the battle for me. That night I dreamed of Ricardo again. He was walking by the lake, the waters reflecting the moon. He turned to me and said, "Maria, it's not enough to scare them. You need to decide their fate." I woke with labored breathing. He was right. It wasn't enough to just surround them with fear. I needed something definitive, something that would end the dispute once and for all. I looked at the deeds stored in the folder, and I knew the next step wouldn't just be psychological, it would be legal, irrevocable. I spent the following morning organizing documents, maintenance contracts, construction material receipts, the insurance policy, blueprints with Ricardo's annotations. I separated everything into piles: property, taxes, renovations, insurance. I picked up my cell phone and searched for a name I hadn't dialed in years: Dr. Luisa Amaral. We met when I bought the lake house. She was the one who explained to me that titles are stronger than promises. I called through the app. Before I could think of backing out, the response came quickly. "Maria?" The message appeared. "If it's about Lake Vista, come today. I have an opening mid-afternoon." I responded with an "I'm on my way," and in less than 2 hours I was downtown, in front of the building where Luisa had her practice. Luisa received me with a hug from someone who has seen my winters and summers. "Sit, Maria. Tell me," I told her. Without flourishes, without sparing names, I told her about the taken porch, the wine glasses, the phrase, "Now it's theirs," the quiet humiliation. I told her about the plan with Tiago, the programmed sounds, the shadows. I told her finally the hard truth. I didn't want to preserve just bricks and windows. I wanted to save what the house held of me and Ricardo. Luisa listened to everything. Then she ran her hand over the papers, read them carefully, and raised her gaze with calm authority. "You have everything. Proof of possession, maintenance, continued investment. You have messages that constitute moral coercion, attempted dispossession. But Maria, you don't want a fight. You want an ending." "I want closure," I replied. "Closure that doesn't come back." She nodded. "There are paths. Transfer it to an institution with a lifetime access clause. You keep the symbolic key, but the name on the registry ceases to be yours, and consequently won't be theirs either." I knew which answer called to me. I remembered Ricardo taking my hand at the lake's edge, saying, "Everything beautiful lasts longer when shared." "I know the Fresh Start Institute," I said. "They receive families of military personnel and veterans who need respite. Ricardo always supported them. I want the house to serve that purpose, with one condition: lifetime access for me when not in use, so I can continue breathing there and visiting the memories without asking anyone's permission." Luisa smiled in recognition. "It's a grand gesture, and it's shielded. We'll need documentation, registry office recording, formal notification to the family. If you agree, in a few days it's signed, and when it's recorded, no one can undo it." No one can undo it. The phrase settled in me like a well-placed roof before rain. "Do it," I replied. Sign whatever pages are necessary. I'll bring everything. Louisa collected the piles with care that moved me. Before we left, she placed a light hand on my folder. Maria, you're choosing the type of victory that crosses generations. With paper, yes, but above all with meaning. Driving home, I encountered a light rain washing the asphalt. The cell phone vibrated on the car console. It was Helena. Mother, we're going to move things in for good next Saturday. We'll arrive at 2 o'clock sharp. Don't go. It will be easier. 2 o'clock. The time drove a perfect nail into my calendar. I responded only, understood. Before getting out of the car, I sent a message to Tiago. Saturday at 2 o'clock. I want the system in full mode. No accidents, just discomfort. Sequence with lights, sound, shadows, and door lock delay, then absolute silence. Confirmation came in seconds, followed by a key emoji that made me laugh alone. The days before Saturday were like ants' work. I took authenticated copies to Louisa, got certificates, gathered conversations with Helena, messages where they said, "It's ours now." Louisa prepared the drafts, drafted the donation term with a lifetime access clause for me, and express impediment to first and second-degree relatives. On Thursday, she called me. The Fresh Start board agreed immediately. They were touched by the tribute to Ricardo. We sign tomorrow. By Monday, we'll have it recorded. I closed my eyes and thanked a time that decided to be brief. On Friday, I signed each page slowly. I read and reread the paragraph. The property is donated to the Fresh Start Institute, with the burden of exclusively social and therapeutic use. The donor, Maria, is assured the right of lifetime access, non-transferable. My name, my right, my goodbye to retention. When the pen scratched the last line, I felt the walls inside me adjust to the new format of the house. On Saturday, shortly after lunch, the gate signal alerted me to a car. I saw Helena and Andre's SUV appear on the Pebble Pass camera, with Claudio and Regina in the back seat. They got out with the haste of those who believe. Before the doors slammed, I programmed the house's first gesture, a warning. Tiago had installed a small, discreet sign on the porch. "Shelter house. Enter at your own conscience's risk." Regina read it, wrinkled her nose. "What silly joke! Better remove that, Helena." Helena took her key and turned the lock. The door yielded. They entered. I followed through the tablet the parade through my living room. For a few minutes, I let common time do what it does. Regina arranged pillows. Claudio opened the refrigerator and commented about the butter. Andre tested the thermostat. Helena walked through the house, measuring territory with her heels. The tablet clock marked 2:10. I touched the full sequence command. The lights pulsed twice and stabilized. In the hallway, the floor creaked, accompanied by 3 low piano notes. Andre raised his head. Not again. The house breathed through the system. Regina turned her face. "Someone touched me." Claudio laughed nervously. "It's an impression." My programmed voice spoke at the entrance. "This place doesn't recognize lies." Helena looked back, searching for a known figure. In the kitchen, faucets opened for 10 seconds and stopped. Andre ran to the sink, turned the valves, and nothing leaked. Regina, pale, whispered, "This isn't normal." The voice from the living room warned, "Protected environment, please leave." I dimmed the staircase light. The projector on the landing cast a tall, motionless shadow. Claudio held the handrail with the force of someone holding a cliff. Helena squeezed her husband's fingers. "Let's stay on the ground floor." Her voice came thin. "It's just the wiring." They tried to open their suitcases. Andre pulled the door to get things from the car. The handle didn't yield. 1, 2, 3 attempts. Regina began praying quietly. Claudio looked at the ceiling. Enough. The directional voice, only for Helena, whispered close to her ear, You turned your back on me. The handle finally yielded. They left quickly without trying to appear brave. The gate cried under the car's weight leaving. The room filled with silence. I touched the last command. Rest mode. The house fell asleep with open eyes. Minutes later, Helena called. Mother, what is this? The electrician said there's nothing wrong, that it's an intelligent system. Interesting, I replied. Maybe the house really is intelligent. You're behind this. I know it. I've been here signing papers. She was silent. What papers? The ones that define the house's destiny. Monday everything becomes public. It's no longer mine, nor yours, nor anyone's in your alliance. You wouldn't do that. I already did. She took a deep breath. Let's talk in person. Today, at your house. Come, bring the respect that was missing on the porch. At early evening, Helena and Andre arrived without the in-laws. I saw under Helena's hastily applied makeup the signs of sleepless nights. Andre came with rigid shoulders. You crossed the line, I began. You took the porch, sent me away, planned to move in for good. I did the only thing left. I protected the history you were born into. With technological cowardice, Andre retorted. With ingenuity, and with law. Paper is quieter than screaming, but weighs more. Helena sat on the sofa, not in Ricardo's armchair. That delicacy remained. What did you sign? Donation to the Fresh Start Institute, with lifetime access for me and clauses that prevent abuse. The house will serve those who need air after war. You can offer your presence one day, if you learn to enter without angles. She lowered her chin, biting her lip. You preferred strangers to your own daughter. I preferred purpose over greed, I replied, without raising my voice. I preferred your father's memory to the desire for status, and I preferred to keep my name in a safe place rather than dispute it with someone who expels me from my own house. Andre stepped toward me, but Helena held his wrist. That gesture was worth more than any speech. And now? She asked. Now you stop. What was done can't be undone. If you try to enter, you'll answer for it. If you insist on pressuring me, there will be legal action. If you want to start over, knock on my door, without arranging what you're going to take. Helena wiped a tear. Can I talk to you alone another day? Without Andre, without in-laws, without haste. You can, but not today. Today I'm tired. They left without rudeness, already a beginning. I closed the door and leaned my forehead against the wood, like someone listening to the house from inside saying, well done. On Monday morning, news circulated. The Lake Vista house was now part of the Fresh Start Institute. The registry office had published the notation. There was no going back. Days later, Helena came alone. Her voice was hoarse. Mother, I was wrong. I know you won't believe me, but I didn't plan it this way. I looked firmly. You expelled me from my own house, Helena. She lowered her face. Andre convinced me it would be better for the future. He said you barely went there, that the house was empty. I believed him. You chose. You chose to laugh at me on the porch. Chose to serve wine as if you were queen. Tears accumulated in her eyes. I was tired of feeling small, Mother. I always thought I'd never have your value. Andre used that against me. Those words pierced me. For years I tried to give her wings. Perhaps she felt she'd never be as strong as me. Daughter, I spoke, my voice softer. You didn't need to tear me down to feel big. Love isn't a scale. She cried without disguises. Why the house, Mother? Why donate? I took a deep breath. Because I needed an ending that doesn't come back. If I kept it in my name, you'd keep trying. By donating, I protected your father's memory and transformed it into something greater. Now each wall shelters those who need to start over. But I grew up there, she murmured. And so did I. And so did your father. The difference is you wanted to erase the root. I preferred to plant it another way. Helena wiped her eyes. I don't know if I can forgive myself. I took her hand. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing to move forward but without carrying the weight. For a moment I saw in her eyes the girl who ran by the lake with disheveled hair and loose laughter. When Helena rose to leave, Regina appeared at the gate holding a small box. Inside was the pearl she always wore. Maybe it should have stayed with you, Maria. I don't deserve it. What is this, Regina? Just a symbol, the mother-in-law replied, her voice choked. I was arrogant. I thought status was worth more than memory, but the house showed me it's not. Keep it with you, to remember not to repeat. Regina nodded, left the box on the table, and withdrew in silence. Weeks later, the house was already full of new stories. Families arrived with tired eyes and left a little lighter. I went on quiet days, watered plants, left brewed coffee, and departed before new occupants arrived. With each visit, I felt Ricardo present, as if saying, now yes, this house breathes. Helena kept her promise. She began working as a volunteer. Gradually, our conversations began to flow again. Not like before, but as a new beginning. Andre didn't appear anymore. The in-laws even less. And I didn't miss them. One day, leaving the porch, Helena hugged me. Thank you for not giving up on me, Mother. I hugged back, feeling the cycle was finally closing. The house is no longer mine, but in a way it's more mine than ever, because it holds not only my memories but also the chance for others to write new ones. Helena learned, I learned, and Ricardo, wherever he is, smiles. The Fresh Start Institute officially inaugurated Lake Vista on a spring morning. I arrived early and stood on the porch watching light slide across the water. A small metal plaque reflected the sun. Given in memory of Ricardo, may this house be breath. Around 10, the first family arrived, a young couple with 2 small children, accompanied by an older veteran. His eyes carried shadows of battles I couldn't imagine. The Institute's director introduced me as the donor. The veteran extended his hand with unexpected strength. You can't imagine what this means to us. I looked at the children running through the garden free and replied, I can imagine. That's why I did it. That night I returned home with a full heart. For the first time, the house wasn't just storing old memories, it was creating new ones. Months later, Andre appeared one autumn morning. He was different, tired eyes but less arrogant, thinner but standing with newfound dignity. He stopped before Ricardo's large photo. I miss him, he said, and I'm ashamed of myself. I hugged him. There was no more hatred, only space for regret. Reconciliation began there, simple and silent. That year, the Institute was officially recognized by the state government as heritage of social relevance. The news spread quickly, and the community embraced the cause even more. A journalist asked during an interview, Donna Maria, how do you feel seeing your house transformed into a refuge? I smiled. I feel that I didn't lose anything. On the contrary, I gained a family larger than I could have dreamed. On a golden afternoon, I sat by the lake with Helena and Andre. The waters reflected the sky in copper tones. I held both their hands and said, This place is no longer just mine. It's yours too, but not in possession, in responsibility. Whoever crosses through these doors needs to leave lighter than they entered. That's the true testament I leave. They nodded, and I realized that even after so many losses and conflicts, it was still possible to rebuild bonds. Sometimes I walk through the garden at night and talk to myself, as if Ricardo were still beside me. I tell him we succeeded, that the house wasn't taken by greed, but offered as healing, that our son finally learned to look beyond himself. that our daughter became guardian of a legacy. Every time I see someone leave with a renewed smile, I feel the cycle is complete. Pain gave way to hope, and loneliness transformed into community. 1 year later, the Fresh Start Institute's first annual report on the Lake House program arrived in my mailbox on a Tuesday morning. I sat at my kitchen table, Ricardo's photograph beside me, and read through the statistics. 43 families served, over 200 nights of respite care provided, testimonials from veterans and spouses about the healing power of the space. One testimonial stood out. "This house saved my family. After 3 tours overseas, I couldn't connect with my wife or children anymore. The week we spent at the lake house gave us space to remember why we love each other, to talk without distractions, to heal. Whoever donated this place, thank you. You gave us our lives back." I read the words twice, tears blurring my vision. This was what it was all for. This was the legacy Ricardo deserved. Helena had kept her promise to volunteer. She went to the lake house twice a month, helping coordinate activities, organizing donations, sitting with spouses who needed someone to talk to. The director had called to tell me that Helena was a natural, that families specifically requested her because of her warmth and genuine empathy. Andre had filed for divorce 6 months after the incident at the house. Helena had moved into a small apartment downtown and was rebuilding her life step by step. We had dinner together once a week, slowly reconstructing our relationship on a foundation of honesty rather than assumptions. Regina and Claudio had moved to another state to live with their younger daughter. Before they left, Regina had written me a letter, a genuine apology acknowledging her role in the attempted seizure, expressing shame for her behavior. I had written back, not offering forgiveness exactly, but acknowledging her courage in admitting fault. As for the house itself, I visited once a month when it wasn't occupied by families. I would sit on the porch, tend the garden, make small repairs when needed. Tiago had removed most of the technological haunting system. I no longer needed it, but we'd left a few elements in place. Subtle lighting that created ambiance, audio that could play soft music or nature sounds, features that enhanced the therapeutic atmosphere rather than terrifying occupants. On those visits, I talked to Ricardo. I told him about Helena's progress, about the families being helped, about the life the house now led. I like to think he heard me, that he approved, that somewhere he was smiling at how it had all turned out. Because in the end, this story was never really about a house. It was about understanding that true ownership isn't about control or possession. It's about stewardship, about caring for things in ways that honor their purpose and history. The lake house had been mine, yes, but more importantly, it had been Ricardo's sanctuary, then our shared retreat, then a symbol of family and memory. When it was threatened, I had defended it, first with technology and psychology, then with legal action and creative donation. Now it belonged to everyone who needed it, and in belonging to them, it finally belonged to its highest purpose. I picked up my pen and wrote a response to the Institute's report. Thank you for the update. Reading about the families you're helping fills my heart with joy. Please know that every night of respite care, every moment of healing, every child's laugh that echoes through those rooms, all of it honors my late husband's memory more than any plaque or monument ever could. Keep doing this vital work. The house was always meant to be a place of love and healing. Now finally, it is. I signed my name, sealed the envelope, and placed it on the table to be mailed. Outside my window, birds sang in the garden. Inside, the house was quiet but not empty. Never empty when it held this much purpose, this much peace. I had started this journey in anger, in betrayal, in the desire for justice. I was ending it in gratitude, in reconciliation, in the knowledge that sometimes the best revenge is transformation. Transforming pain into purpose loss into legacy, betrayal into an opportunity to demonstrate what true generosity looks like. The lake house breathed. It had always breathed, but now it breathed for others, offering respite and healing to those who needed it most. And that, I thought, smiling at Ricardo's photograph, was exactly as it should be. The house was no longer mine, but it was more mine than ever, because it carried not only my memories, but also the chance for others to write new ones. Helena learned. I learned. And Ricardo, wherever he is, smiles. And when someone asks why I donated Lake Vista, I always answer the same thing, because the true legacy is not what we keep, but what we set free. Today, when I walk through Lake Vista, I hear not only Ricardo's memories, but also the voices of the families who passed through, the laughter of children, the stories of overcoming. The house is no longer mine, but it carries my heart in every brick. And when someone asks me if I don't miss having the property, I respond, what we have can be lost. What we give with purpose becomes eternal. The house breathes. It always has. I just had to learn to breathe with it.